we are recording. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going to go on. Let me do a little screen share here. So I took my website and I put it as a document because I can't share the website for some reason. Okay. So this is the same information on the website, but I'm going to clarify as we go through it. Okay. So we are going to be reading Gatsby next. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And as I said, I have only 24 copies. So you either get to the office and get one before tomorrow because nobody's going to be there next week. Okay. But there are so many copies floating around. Well, you may even have a copy of The Great Gatsby on your shelf somewhere. We have like 2 or 3 at our house. I don't know why we have so many. And then I also put on a link for the, you can find it online. So it's not hard, and it's not a hard read either. It's an interesting read, and F. Scott Fitzgerald, his sentences are crafted really interesting, just beautiful sentences that he writes. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Okay. Now I have a due date here for the reading of the project. I want everything done by Tuesday, April 28th. So that is a week from this coming Tuesday. Okay. So spring break ends. We're supposed to start again on Monday, but I've noticed if I have things due on Monday, everybody's like, oh, is that today? Oh my gosh. So it's just better to say it's Tuesday. So when they call me on Monday, go, oh my God, you're like, no, it's tomorrow. So hurry it up. Okay. So let me tell you about the creative projects idea that we're going to be doing. Okay. Let me get the right page up. I know some of you have already looked through this. I bet a few people ask questions and options. A few people have given suggestions for music options, which I hadn't even considered. So we can totally do that. So I wanted to give you something completely different to do, something that's more creative, something that's more interesting and fun, okay, as a reflection of this, okay? And I expect you to spend like a minimum of 3 hours on the project. You may want to spend much more, but at least 3 hours, okay? And I think you will. And I will want to have a brief rundown of how you spent your time, okay? So such as an hour photography, an hour editing, 2 hours writing, 4 hours drawing, whatever. I just want to know how you spent your time, okay? So options for you, you could pretend that you're an Instagram influencer. I hate that phrase. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm a popular girl. But anyway, you can have a lot of fun lampooning this. So you could describe like Gatsby's parties, what people should be wearing or not wearing. You could stage your own photo shoot of a Gatsby party and just use whatever you've got in your house, okay? So be creative and use whatever you've got, whatever you're wearing. I'm sure you've seen some links already to different museums that are having people dress up, or people that are trying to copy fashion ideas with their own stuff. Some of these are hilarious, but and so just kind of think about how you could recreate this and write it up as it was Instagram, okay? Do like make a little Instagram, whatever, account kind of thing for this. I mean, you don't have to make a real account, but just set it up like it would be, okay? Maybe you want to do an illustration of a key element of the book. It's like a symbol, a place, or an object. I'm thinking like in Cunningham's room, he's got that big poster, and it's the entire the Great Gatsby written out on that poster. You know, you look at it and you go, oh, I get that. So back when I was in high school and we did this book, you know, yeah, it was around way back then. My teacher said, I always wanted to have, and when you read it, you'll understand these big pair of eyeglasses. So there's a billboard in there where it's just these big pair of eyeglasses and these eyes. Okay, so it's for an optometrist. She said, I always wanted to have a big set of that. So I made her that. I got some big white butcher paper in the art room and I spread it out. And I had an art class at the time. It was commercial art, it was AP art. Anyway, so I did the big eyes and she loved it. And so apparently she used it for years until she passed away. But students, after they'd read those chapters, they'd come in and she would have it up on the board. So they'd walk in and they'd all like, oh my gosh, there's the glasses. So I was like, yay, I did that. But then I also did, so we also did the Metamorphosis, which we haven't read. and it's about a man who wakes up and he discovers that he's a cockroach. Okay, Jen knows what I'm talking about. And so I made her a full-size 6-foot watercolor of a cockroach too. Big butcher paper, detailed. I mean, I had these blown up. I still creeped out by cockroaches to this day. And this is like over 30 years ago. But I did it very anatomically correct. And I brought it to my AP biology teacher, and he helped me with some of the details to get them all right. So I created her a giant cockroach as well. And so she would roll that out and freak out students for years. It was so much fun. But that was amazing because I got extra credit in art and AP biology and AP English, one assignment. I mean, like, that was amazing. I was so proud of myself. Anyway, so, and that's what I was thinking of when I was coming up with ideas. I went, oh, somebody could do something like that. Okay, so think about like an art piece or whatever if you want to do that. Okay, performance art. You could become one of the characters and record your day as if you're that character. Like I could see Vivian being Daisy Buchanan. Okay, totally just being Vivian and herself. So in the style and flavor of the character, record yourself throughout the day. Okay, you can pretend like you're in a mansion, or you can be realistic and explain why you're stuck in the middle of Maine instead of a peninsula in New York. Okay, so what would your day be like? Okay, so if you're into acting, you could do that. You could create a movie trailer. Okay, I do not want you to use the actual movie trailer, but create your own. So you could do splicing images together. You can find music to put in there, create some kind of movie trailer. Okay, stock photos and things, whatever. You could create a movie art poster. Okay, such as you could do it digital or physical art. I don't care which way. Okay, do not use already created movie posters. Come up with something of your own. All right. Character journal. So maybe some people don't really want to do artistic things. They'd rather just write a journal in the voice of another character. So this book is in the voice of Nick, who is an observer. He thinks he's an impartial observer, but he's really not. Okay. So he's an observer of all of this, and he kind of puts his opinion on everybody. Well, you could write it from somebody else's point of view. And how do they see everything that's going on? So it wouldn't have to obviously not be the whole same book. But, I'd say like 5 or 6 pages of a journal of how they perceive key things, okay? Maybe some of you want to do some poetry, okay? So write 3 medium-sized poems about the scenery or the characters or love poems, and try making a sonnet or a ballad or a narrative or anything like that, okay? So if you're into poetry, you could do that. Maybe somebody wants to do video stories, okay? So create a behind-the-scenes video, what's really going on in the Gatsby mansion. Obviously, you're going to have to use your house again for this. Pretend that maybe you're like a servant in the house or a butler. Okay, what do you see going on? And you could film what's going on and go around and, I don't know, use your family as characters, whatever. You could do a photography project. So make a photo journal of Gatsby-like scenery with whatever you have around the house. You could stage scenes such as like the bathroom after all the women have been in there doing their makeup for the party. Okay, you could easily stage things like that. You can use toys, you can use Barbies. I've got a friend right now, I should post her videos, who is taking Barbies, and she's got some nieces and nephews that are little kids that are bored, and she is doing videos with her Barbies outside, trying to teach them how to be safe in this time. And this woman is a little bit nuts, so to begin with, she's a little bit crazy, but she's doing these Barbie videos and they're hilarious. They're just so bizarre. So you could do something like that. Like I use Lego figs to set up little scenery around campus. You could do that. I also put in here the link from the Getty Museum where people are dressing up in different ways. Okay, so that's a photography project. Maybe you want to do a map. Okay, create a map of the events in the book. So it can be a digital, physical paper, 3D map. You could take stuff from around your house and make a 3D map and then photograph that and send it to me, whatever. Some people like doing collages. So maybe you want to do a collage poster where you cut out and print and paste and, create like just a big poster of everything that feels Gatsby. Okay, obviously you're going to have to have read the book so you know what a Gatsby feel is, okay? So maybe somebody wants to do graphic novels. Okay, so you've got you illustrate it, and then you have shortened text, condensed text, okay, and do a few pages of, you know, of key scenes or something, okay. If anybody's into really sewing, wardrobe, sewing design, you could maybe make some clothes if you want to, or draw a design of what the clothing would have looked like, okay. Anything like that. So those are the ideas I had, and I had a few people that had some musical ideas. If you've got something else, let me know, okay. But the requirements are, I want you to spend 3 hours on it. I want it to be creative, I want you to have fun, and yeah, I am going to put them on the website, okay. So whatever links and images you send me, and then later when we come back, I'm going to have you write a review of 2 of them, just a brief review, so I can have evidence that you actually looked at them. But that's what it is, okay. Questions, suggestions of that?
Not so far.
Okay. Okay. I hope it'll be fun. I want you guys to have some fun with this. Do something different. Okay. So let me go back to, okay, so that's not going to be due. You got a full week. So I would suggest just start reading the book. I know Cunningham told me once that he was getting his lube on his car, a lube job and a tune-up, and it was like 2.5 hours, and he read The Great Gatsby the entire time while he, you know, from front to the beginning to end while he was getting his car fixed. So he's like, they can read it fast. It's not hard. I'm like, all right, you think so? I read slow because I like to sit and look at a sentence and ponder it. So yeah, so I'm a slower reader. So if you are a slower reader, and there's a lot of really interesting sentences, like, okay, so this is the last time I read the book, I put in sticky notes for sentences that I liked. Can you see all those sticky notes? There's a lot. Oh, like, okay, that's just the way that I read. Okay, so read it, do this project. Okay, let's see. So I wanted you to have some background about The Great Gatsby. So on the website, I do have a video that gives you some background of him. Apparently he captured perfectly the 1920s. Okay, what does that mean? So let me scroll down here for a minute. Do you guys know anything about Prohibition? Anything about Prohibition at all? Okay, so you need to understand how this book even got to be. All right, so back in the like around 1900, there were some temperance movement groups. These are people who said, you know, there's a lot of problems connected with alcohol. If we got rid of alcohol, we'd get rid of a lot of these problems, which is true. Alcohol's a nasty drug. So they decided different movements, and it got to the point where in 1920, they created a constitutional ban on alcohol. Nobody could make it, so you couldn't produce it, import it, transport it, or sell any alcoholic beverages. And this is in place from 1920 to 1933, okay? So the idea was just to reduce all of these problems that alcohol caused. Instead, it did something else, okay? Do you know how easy it is to make your own alcohol at home? It's pretty easy, okay? You would have people that were called moonshiners. I had it somewhere. Where was it? Oh, maybe it's not in here.
There's
So you would have
a show about that.
Oh yeah, yeah, there is. So you can make your own stuff. Steve's just telling me about making blueberry wine. You know, I mean, people create their own alcohol all the time. So just saying that it's outlawed didn't do any good. More and more people started making their own alcohol, and then they started selling it, and they started selling it for more and more. And I read that this is when Walgreens, the drugstore, really took off, because you could get a prescription for medicinal alcohol. Does this sound like medicinal marijuana at all? I mean, yeah, kind of, okay. But you could get a prescription for it, and certain doctors would write a prescription for anything, okay. You could talk any kind of problem into, oh, I need medicinal alcohol. If you were an alcoholic, you could get a prescription for medicinal alcohol. I mean, that's how ridiculous it was. And so this is, Walgreens would fill those prescriptions, and that's how Walgreens exploded during the 1920s and 30s, because they were dealing with alcohol. Obviously, they don't anymore. They're much more legit, but that's how they got their rise. I read that in another article, and I had no idea. So people were very much into making alcohol, selling it, and it was against the law. But there were so many people doing this, and that the law enforcement can't keep up. Plus, law enforcement also would take kickbacks if they find it. This was called a speakeasy. Um, if they found one of these, they would bribe the police to ignore it and move on. So sometimes it'd be, oh, we're just a dance club. Oh, we're just playing cards here. Oh, we're just a fashion show. And it was all just a front for alcohol. Okay. And so the police could be bribed. This is how everybody made a whole bunch of money. This is how Gatsby made his money too. Okay. So they don't actually say it in the book, but there's hints as to, wow, suddenly he's got all of this money, and where does it come from? Oh, he has drugstores. Ah, okay, where he is selling all of this stuff. Okay, so this is where you have a lot of criminal gangs that were building up, especially in Chicago and New York. This is where all the whole gang, organized crime syndicates came from. A lot of people came from Europe and other places to establish them, and it got a lot of money. Okay. So, here we go. So illegal producers known as moonshiners sold their illegal products to distributors known as bootleggers, who then sold them to speakeasies. So it starts with moonshiners, bootleggers, speakeasies. Okay, like you needed to know all of that. I just thought it was interesting. So this is how mysterious Jay Gatsby becomes rich, is that he is selling illegal booze. Okay. So there's a lot in here that our narrator says, what an amazing, wonderful guy he is. You got to think about that, if that's true or not. So we talked earlier about how you have a narrator who may or may not be reliable. Nick is a biased narrator in this book. And I want you to just kind of keep that in mind and watch for that. Is what he's saying really true about certain things? Okay. So, I can't hit this over. Okay. So one of these websites said, like I said, drugstore that can legally acquire and sell alcohol also sold their products illegally to speakeasies, which would then resell the alcohol. This is what's happening in Gatsby's drugstore. So this is how he gets his money. Okay. So just wanted you to be aware of that. And then I've got a whole bunch of images and things about the Jazz Age. Okay, so F. Scott Fitzgerald actually called it the Jazz Age. So when you hear about that, he's when he came up with this term, our author did. So you had all kinds of places. I mean, remember when we were doing Importance of Being Earnest and how proper and prim everybody was. And they've got the layers of clothing, and they've got the very careful social ways of behaving. This is just 20, 30 years after that. Not a whole lot of time has lapsed, and everybody has swung to an opposite direction. So women are not dressed very fancily from head to toe. Now they're getting very skanky in some of their clothing. People are not very prim and proper anymore. They are very loose and wild and free. I mean, they've just swung totally the opposite direction. So, and it's a matter of 20, 30 years, which is really interesting. We also had World War I in the middle of that. Okay, so you got World War I, and everybody's like, woohoo, the war's over. They go kind of nuts about that. So I put in some pictures. You had a lot of jazz clubs that came up, especially in New York City. And so we read earlier about Langston Hughes, and I think it was the very beginning of the semester, and about the Harlem Renaissance. And this is when he was writing, this is when he was coming up. It was in the 1920s, blacks actually got a lot of respect and were able to really make it big on the music scene, singing, dancing. They actually had clubs. They actually got a lot of attention and respect that they had never received before. So you had a lot of the jazz music was the black music. So they were finally getting some attention at that time, and this is starting all at this time too. Okay. And then you got these flapper dresses. Okay, I'm sure you've seen these kinds of dresses. This is where they came from. Okay. A lot of famous people at this time. So you have Al Capone, I know this is like from a coloring book, but it was a good picture, good image. So Al Capone, who was one of these guys who's very much into selling the alcohol, Charlie Chaplin, George Washington Carver. Here's F. Scott Fitzgerald. So Henry Ford, as in the Ford motor cars. There was also Chevrolet from France. He started the Chevrolet cars. George Gershwin, he's a musician. Duke Ellington, a number of important people. So cars went from the very simple Model T Fords to much more grander things. Okay, so you had your Model Ts, and then very quickly they turned into this. Now you could have these kinds of cars that were customized. You'd only have one or two kinds like this, and they were ridiculously expensive. Nor did you have to have a driver's license. Nor did they have speed limits. You just drove your car, and if you got the biggest car, everybody has to get out of the way. So you can imagine there was a lot of problems. Nor did they have seat belts. Okay, so we're driving around with people who don't have seat belts, no speed limits, no driver's licenses. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of mayhem going on there. But you have these incredible vehicles, okay? And then you got these women in their dresses and the vehicles. So a lot of the dresses were, a little bit further down, but still, this is not at all like we saw back in Victorian times. This is a complete reversal of that, okay? Then they also had a lot of dances that came out. On the website, I've got a video that somebody else had put together about the different kinds of dances. So that's kind of fun. You might want to watch that. And most of that is original footage too. So we were starting with movies back in the 1920s and talkies. So they used to have just the music the movie where they just play the music in the background and people are moving around. And then they started the talking movies around this time. Have any of you seen the movie Singing in the Rain? Gene Kelly. Michaela, you haven't? I would thought for sure you would have. Okay. Fantastic movie. And it's about this time period. It's so much fun. About when they're first starting to put talking into movies. So if you like singing and dancing and big stage productions, and it's actually really funny. Singing in the Rain. Go find it. It's a lot of fun. And it's based in this time period. Okay. So I just want to get you kind of a feel for that, so you know what's going on. So watch those videos. You'll enjoy those. This was really funny too. There was a website a little while ago where in New York City they'd been cleaning out a whole bunch of stuff, and they found these cards, all these note cards like this one. And the libraries used to be Google. So if you don't know how to find anything or figure something out, you would call the librarian, and then the librarian would type down a request in a card, and then the other librarians would go and research it. Okay. So you could find any information by actual real people, and then they would call you back in a day or two, maybe send you a letter about your information. This is a card, and it was from 1967. I love this. So it's a mid-afternoon New Year's Day. Somewhat uncertain female voice. I have two questions. The first is sort of an etiquette one. I went to a New Year's Eve party and unexpectedly stayed over. I don't really know the hosts. Ought I to send a thank you note? And second, when you meet a fellow and you know he's worth $27 million, because that's what they told me, $27 million, and he knows nationality, how do you find out his name? Like, whoa, I want to know what happened with the rest of this story. So this is 1967, but it would have fit really well in the Gatsby thing. Okay, right, about this guy, and he's got a lot of money. I don't know what his name is, but I think he's from this country. And anyway, I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so watch those videos that I posted. It'll help get you some background. And interestingly, remember that the stock market crash happened in 1929. So you've got all these people with all this luxury and all this money, and it's not going to last. Okay, even in Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald has some hints that he thinks it's going to collapse. When he wrote it, it was in the middle of the Roaring 20s. But he could even have this perception of, I don't think we can sustain this. It's going to fall apart, which it did. Okay, so it's really interesting to read this in that context. And sometimes people say that he wrote this to say, oh, look how great America was at that time. That's not why he was writing it. He was trying to show what happens when you have excessive money, excessive immorality, no limits. What do people do? What happens? When you have no limits to anything, this is what happens. And so I've read some people's like, oh, this is the ultimate American drain bug. No, it's not. It's a cautionary tale. It's like, people, you don't want to be like this. Look what happens when you have absolutely no limitations. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that. It's kind of like the Frost poems that people misread those, and I'm going, no, that's not what he's saying. Same with Fitzgerald. This is not what he's saying. Okay, so that is what I want you to be doing over the next week and a half or so. Let me take this off here. If you guys have any questions or you're stumped on something or you want ideas or whatever, obviously I'm not going anywhere. Okay, I'll be here. I get on email and I check it every hour. I'm one of those compulsive kind of people. So you can email me and I will respond back and I can help you with stuff. Okay. Questions, suggestions, anything? Anything?